The Prius. That's right, the Prius. This is a vehicle that has always done a great job of being its primary mission of an efficient, affordable commuter, but no part of it's been fun. It's something we've talked about and the whole industry has talked about because it's easy to make fun of.
Well, this is the new Prius. It is the 5th generation Prius, and it has 60% more horsepower than the last generation. And now for the first time ever, people, enthusiasts, you are fans of the show, have been asking,
is the Prius now a fun car? Is the Prius now a car that's good for the car enthusiast that actually wants something fun to drive, but you know what, efficiency's not bad, I could go with some efficiency.
Now that is a lot to ask, especially of a Prius. Is it fun? But you know, we're curious too. And we brought the Elantra N because the Elantra N has proven itself to be a performance benchmark, a fun benchmark.
Now, these cars are very similar in architecture, front-wheel drive, four-door sedans, size, weight, price even. They're almost right on top of each other, but this isn't a direct head-to-head because the missions of these two cars are totally different. But the number one thing we talk about on this show all the time is you should have a car that's fun to drive. I understand you may just commute, but when you have a car that's fun, you suddenly realize cars are fun, cars are great. We want everybody to have that interaction, that connection with cars. Can the Prius do that?
Great cars, great roads, and all the reasons we love to drive.
Road trips, comparisons, test drives, and podcasts. This is Everyday Driver.
The Elantra N is trying to be fun first and foremost. This is trying to be what the Prius has always been, which is efficient and affordable. So you'll be unsurprised to know that, of course, the Prius is still quite efficient. Miles per gallon on this are still over 50 mpg, which is hard to get in almost anything out there. And it takes regular 87 octane.
When was the last time you heard a car had 60% more power? This one has 194 horsepower. The engine in this car, it makes 150 horsepower, it's naturally aspirated, and you combine that with the electric motor for a total system output of 194 horsepower.
A 60% horsepower increase is welcome, but there isn't a penalty for miles per gallon, which is amazing. This is a 2-liter engine now. Of course, it's still the Atkinson cycle. It's still Toyota doing all of their hybrid tech, which they are the best at.
But here is Hyundai with a 276 horsepower Turbo 4, 286 pound-feet of torque. On the DCT, you get NGS, their famous N-grin shift mode. And all you have to do is right down here, the N button on the steering wheel, and the personality changes. It just wants to rev and spin. It's very happy about itself.
The difference here is that this has modes of aggression that the Prius doesn't have. Of course, the Prius does have a sport mode now, but this has not only a normal mode and a sport mode, but it has a blazing on fire N mode. Once you get up into N mode in this car, as aggressive as it goes, then it's all about performance. That is its first purpose. It's never going to be the first purpose of the Prius. So let's back off of that. Let's get out of N mode. Let's go down to, you know what, normal mode. Speed-wise, in normal mode, they feel kind of similar. The ability to actually tell the car to gather speed, how it responds to the gas pedal is pretty similar in here in normal mode than it is to that other guy.
But the power is not instantaneous, but it's immediate.
This still has a CVT, it's still trading off where all the power is going, and in my case, if you watch the gauge, it's always going to the wheels all of the time. But in spite of the fact this is a hybrid, and in spite of the fact it's a CVT, actually getting power out of this in sport mode isn't difficult anymore.
Even though it might start you out in EV mode, but the engine is so quick to turn on that the power's always there. And this car has never had this kind of power.
The Prius used to do 0 to 60 in about 10.5 seconds. This one's down to 7. Can you think of a car whose 0 to 60 has dropped 3 seconds from one generation to the next?
The handoff between operating in EV mode only, and by the time the engine kicks on, you're only going to notice because of the sound. Otherwise, you're not going to feel any judder when the two start operating simultaneously.
This didn't suddenly get resoundingly powerful, but what I appreciate is the fact that on the back of a corner, if you put your foot in it in sport mode, it actually responds. It will climb out in a satisfying way, and a Prius has never done that before. Now, in order to do that, it does make an awful lot of noise. That's not a happy noise, and what your foot is doing doesn't always connect directly to what the engine is doing. But no matter how much I murder this car, I'm still going to get better gas mileage than that Elantra. And he might be faster than me, but not by much.
Everyday Driver is brought to you by Griot's Garage. Use the code EDRIVER for 10% off your order.
The difference is astounding, but this car's been tuned on racetracks. It's amazing to think that this car really is just an iteration of a boring sedan that isn't all that much fun to drive. So therefore the thinking is, if the Prius is also not much fun to drive, but just by doing a bit of tuning and understanding the car's dynamics and knowing what to change, you could be left with something interesting, like the GR line Prius, TRD Prius.
The crazy thing is, you could drive that Prius about as fast as you can drive this Elantra N down this back road. The difference is in this, that the turn-in is much quicker, the tires hold on better, and you'll feel more secure doing it. Just putting a higher performance tire on the Prius would change things, but the width difference here is also quite profound. They're Michelin PS4, so they're performance tires to begin with. They're also 245s, and the Prius is running 195s.
But this is so much fun. It's so engaging. The fact that a front-wheel drive car can turn in and do the things this does, there's so much interesting feel here with the steering wheel in comparison to the Prius.
While I don't really expect this to be some sort of precise handling vehicle, I do appreciate that it's consistent. If you treat it the same way in a corner, it will respond the same way every single time. That may seem, hello squeal, that may seem obvious, but you'd be amazed the number of cars that can't get that right.
And then, lo and behold, I looked down on the center console, and the drive mode said I could choose Sport. That's right, Sport in a Prius. There's always been a non-equal sign in between those two words, Sport and Prius. What is Toyota doing here?
But I'm thankful that Toyota did that. They do have an Eco, a Normal, and a Sport, which means how economical would you like to be? Do you want to chase that 50 mile per gallon figure, or do you want to have yourself a little bit of fun?
The Prius will now allow you to hoon it. There are limits to the hoon. You will soon quickly discover that you cannot hoon it like you can an Elantra N.
This Prius feels very front-wheel drive. Everything that happens in this car is up ahead. Everything behind you may as well be a balloon. Nothing about forward progress is involved behind your wrists.
And is there anything from the steering here? Come to find out, there's not. I feel the weight of the car down low. Ooh, see, that battery wants to bring the back end of the car around.
This will actually rotate a little bit under braking. If you come into a corner and you throw it into a corner with a little bit of brake added, you can actually get the back to rotate around in a way that makes sense. But what surprises me is the fact that the Prius doesn't act like you're hurting it when you push it hard, and some generations of the Prius really did.
If you drive this just a little bit harder than what was intended, the Prius is going to let you. It will allow you to have a little bit of fun here.
In corners, the struggle actually isn't the chassis. Now, it's very soft, and there's a lot of body roll, so you are battling that if you want to really throw this down a back road. But the difficulty is actually the seats.
The seats, they don't trap you where you need to be.
That sense that you're not secure enough in the seat would make most people back off. I mean, we're not most people. We're going to be idiots and push a Prius anyway.
Yeah, see a little screech out of it? But I like the tenacity. I like where Prius is going now. It's not such a dirty word. The other part of the equation that is letting this car down are the wheels and tires. But they're designed to be low rolling resistance and commuting and getting 52 miles to the gallon.
I bet with better tires on this and maybe a slightly wider tire, you'd definitely have a punishment in your miles per gallon. But I think you'd get rid of a lot of the slop that's going on in cornering.
I wonder what good tires would do for this car. You'll give up mileage, but then you might have a fun Prius? Can we say that?
Please understand, there is no point in taking a Prius and turning it into a back road bomber. Its purpose in life is not to be incredibly fun on a back road. What I appreciate with this generation is the fact that it can do it, and it doesn't complain like the last generations. You have enough power to keep yourself moving. The chassis is solid enough that you can get the movement you want out of it.
I'm driving this with a sports car mindset, and it shouldn't be. But we might be pointed towards fun. We might be. And combined with the instantaneous low power, I mean, I'm going about 60% of what the Elantra can do on this road. That's not bad.
There's a lot of work involved here, and there's a reward in feeling like you made a car do something it's really not designed for. This is a car that's satisfying in that regard because it will actually throw itself down a canyon road, but you got to work for it. The Elantra is a laugh. This will do it if pushed quite hard. Squealy time. Stop hurting me! Oh, poor Prius.
We're talking about Priuses being fun, but yet here's an Elantra that's fun, a sedan that shouldn't be fun and now is.
Now the question with the Elantra N is the performance car all the time issue. Do you want to drive something that's fairly focused and hardcore all day, every day? Is this your everyday car? I don't know. It's really going to depend on what kind of driving you do. Because I'll tell you, if what I was going to do is be on back roads or drive aggressively regularly, there's no chance I'd consider a Prius. But if I were going to commute every day, drive most of the time and stop and go traffic, I would be hard pressed to pick the Elantra N because the Prius just does all of that better. And then when you drive it fast, the Prius isn't embarrassing anymore.
For the first time ever, saying that you own a Prius will kind of be like, is that sporty? Is that a sports car? Is that kind of a fun thing? It's not, but we can hope.
What's really interesting to me, though, is that if this is the benchmark for performance, the Prius is closer to this than it has any right to be, but 50 plus miles to the gallon, and it doesn't embarrass itself on a back road. This will embarrass the Prius, but it can't do any of the other stuff. So what do you need? The Prius is now, it's not like it now became a performance car. But if this is the benchmark, a lot of things aren't.
I feel like Toyota's kind of figured themselves out, but it took 21 years and multiple generations and a lot of cars being sold to arrive here. And we're in a good place. For the first time ever, looks attractive. And I think Toyota is going to discover many new Prius buyers on that virtue alone.
And it has a futuristic sense about it, like it's going to be a shuttlecraft for a Star Trek film or one of those vaguely futuristic and expensive things you see in Avengers. This has that kind of feel about it. This is a styling that, frankly, I just love. This generation actually has a little bit less headroom, both front and rear, than the last generations. Now, that's because the car has a lower roofline and, let's be honest, looks better.
Now, the back seats aren't great. In my driver's position, there's not a lot of legroom. And my head, Todd's head, it hits the rear. But where most people, you're going to be shocked how much space there is in the Prius.
On the inside, they've gone away from the center gauge cluster, which was always annoying. They've put it in front of you. Now, it's a little bit weird because they've put it in a place where, depending upon where you have your seat and the steering wheel set, the wheel may cover some of the gauge.
Well, you have to kind of make a compromise. But still, the top of the steering wheel blocks the bottom of your instrument panel, your digital gauges.
But this has a fantastic mix of screens and buttons. This new interface from Toyota is excellent. It makes sense, it works well, Apple CarPlay, everything is here and fine. There's a volume knob on the far side here for the passenger because of course the driver has one on the wheel. Easy to use, simple to understand buttons, gauges, stalks, everything that you need here is very easy to interact with and also very easy to learn.
Because Toyota is starting to have a little fun themselves. You will notice they're doing Easter eggs on the car.
I don't need it to say hybrid reborn, but it does in multiple places. But the oddest of all is the hashtags. The wireless charger says hashtag wireless charger at the bottom. The glove box says hashtag glove box. There's a hidden compartment. Guess what that says? Hashtag hidden compartment. Oh, by the way, there's also safety first behind the backseat seatbelt. Not only is my question, why on earth did Toyota decide to actually mold these into the plastic of the car? That took time and planning and expense. But beyond that, who's going to hashtag that? Do you want to talk to that person? Is Toyota keeping track? Are there really people out there going, hashtag glove box, hashtag wireless charger? Is this happening?
And what it says is they're not taking themselves quite so seriously anymore. And if that means they're headed towards fun, then I welcome that.
So is the Prius fun? More than it ever has been. Is that an improvement? Yes, that's a big improvement. And it isn't embarrassing, but it is surprising. This is kind of like some guy that joins a pickup game wearing a suit, and he ends up being better than everybody expected, but he is wearing dress shoes. Get the man some sneakers. Now, if you are buying a commute car, I'm not really sure why you'd buy anything else at this point because the embarrassing parts of a Prius are now gone. It looks good, it drives decently, it still gets great gas mileage, and it isn't bad on a back road. It isn't the most fun thing ever, and it can't compete with things like that Elantra N, but if I had a daily sit in traffic commute, this would be my car. Get it in a color, different wheels and tires. Yeah, I could HoonAPrius.
There is something here that encourages you that future generations actually might be good to drive. But for right now, there's no downside to getting excellent gas mileage and driving a shape like this and getting all these features.
That's a hashtag, HoonAPrius. Come on, Toyota. It should be right here on the steering wheel. HoonAPrius. I'm starting it. It's going to be a thing.
This is the car that will set Prius on the path to becoming cool. It's never been cool up to now, but this one just might do it.
With prior generations of the Prius, you were making a statement. I want efficiency and green running above all. With this Prius, you're just making a choice. I'd like a car that looks good, that drives pretty well, and you know what, while we're at it, I'd like it to be cheap to run. That'd be nice. This 5th generation Prius, the hybrid is a bonus. It's not the point. And that is a big change.
Will I buy one? No, I do not need this as a commuter, but this is an excellent commuter now. You feel like you've discovered something. With the stylish car, the stylish nature of this thing, and amazing gas mileage, I'm shocked that I even moderately like this. Let me put it this way. This is not the car to make fun of anymore.
Part of me wants all of us to reach out to Toyota on social media right now, whatever your platform of choice is, and include all of those hashtags, just to see what the response is. There's a part of me that wants to hashtag those different things on every video we ever do, whether it's about the Prius or not, because I don't know, maybe I win a prize.